Karen's wedding gets completely messed up and she learns the shocking truth about why her mother left the titular mysterious island. Hello my friends and welcome to my review of the next big episode of Island. Before we go any further, I just want to say that this is going to be a super quick fire review. I am incredibly busy working on a lot of other projects, as well as dealing with family and friends, you know the deal. So let's just go ahead and jump into this episode of Island right here, which is all about Karen's wedding and her leaving the island and learning what truly happened to her mother. First and foremost, Island anime series, I know what you tried to do with the last episode, ending with Karen just jumping directly on top of Setsuna and demanding that he mess her up. What she really meant to say was, I need you to mess up my wedding. Now, of course, she could have worded this completely different, but we needed some sort of weird, creepy implication that she wanted to get down with Setsuna. And that leads to what I think is probably the most ridiculous scene of the entire episode. Basically, she wants to make it clear to her father and her family that she does not want to be in a forced marriage, she wants to leave the island, and she wants to go and see her mother. Now, what's really funny and ridiculous about this entire scene is that they actually go through with the entire ceremony. She gets dressed up, she puts on the makeup, they have all the family show up, and they go through this big ceremony where she's going to be betrothed to the resident officer of the island. And then suddenly Setsuna walks in with some sort of weird creepy mask and some Japanese reference that I don't fully understand, and they decide to essentially leave the island, leaving everybody in a state of complete gasp. Why did they have to do this? Why couldn't they have just left the island without telling anybody? It would have had the same exact result. I'll tell you why they did it. They needed to add an extra 5 minutes to this episode. That being said, it's wacky, it's ridiculous, and it's crazy, but it does lead to a very great scene which is incredibly liberating of watching Karen finally leave this island. It's actually bridged together by this ridiculous sequence where they're riding on this moped and they do this impossible jump off of this dock onto a ship, which makes no sense in terms of the physics, but eventually it does lead to Karen and Setsuna coming to the mainland, which is just a complete culture shock for Karen. Basically, it's established that everybody on that island is essentially a country bumpkin, and they're not used to being in these big cities with all this technology and even just the most minor of things, such as convenience stores. Karen's brother provided her with this map, which was going to take her to her mother, and through a series of watching them go across the city and go on trains, eventually she does find where her mother is, and it's not exactly what she expected. In fact, her mother is dead. The map actually ends up taking her to the top of a hill where her grave is, and that's where we learn that she actually left the mainland to actually become a college professor. What is she studying? It's kind of mysterious. It's all mysterious because one of her old students is there, someone who worked with her directly, who may or may not have been in a relationship with her. It's kind of hard to tell, but apparently Karen's mother a year earlier got into a car accident and unfortunately died. This is something that Karen's father kept away from her, didn't want her to know anything about. While he could be just being a protective father, I don't imagine why he couldn't have told her all of this, because Karen's old enough to surely understand why these things are the way they are. But basically, Karen comes to accept the fact that her mother did not abandon them, but went on to live out her dreams to make a better life for herself and for her family. But unfortunately, bad things happen to good people. The episode ends with Karen and Setsuna returning to the island, with her coming to peace with her mother, her father, and returning to the island that she'll eventually be able to leave again when she is indeed an adult. Will she grow up to be a renowned professor like her mother? It's kind of hard to say. The episode ends with some ominous stuff from Sarah, who seems to be planning something. Again, it's all up in the air and everything, and I'm guessing that she's going to get her very own established arc after we've just effectively finished the Karen arc of the series. So what's the rundown on this episode of Island? A very pleasant episode, to say the least, despite some of the dark material that they actually threw at you at the end of the episode. The most intriguing thing about this episode for me is the fact that they're still trying to keep this island so mysterious, especially for the fact that apparently Karen's mother was researching it, and her assistant didn't want to divulge any information about what she was doing. It's all about confidentiality. But the best thing about this episode is that they do firmly establish that even though the people on this island look like your stereotypical anime characters, they are anything but. They are completely isolated from everything in the modern world, and seeing her see all these crazy things around her was certainly one hell of a trip. The beginning of the episode, though, I just felt was kind of sloppy. The whole concept of them actually ruining and messing up the wedding just to make a point to the father when they could have just left, I don't know. That's just the way I see it. What I will say is, this was still a pretty good episode, which effectively wrapped up Karen's arc in a really good way, but we still have Sarah and Rin to deal with, and I'm guessing that's what most of the last couple episodes of the series is going to be wholly devoted to. Still, there's a lot of mystery on Island, and there's still a reason to continue to watch, and that's to see that mystery finally play out. It's also worth mentioning that we do get to see a little bit more of Rin's mother in this episode, which, again, still completely mysterious and strange. I don't know. This series is just really doing everything in its power to withhold all types of information and to play with the heads and emotions of the viewers. So I'm going to give this episode right here a 4 out of 5. Another solid and heartwarming episode of the series, which has definitely given a lot of characterization to the character of Karen, who at the end of the day was basically just your run-of-the-mill tsundere character. Now, there's a lot more to get attached to. So that's my thoughts on the episode. I'd love to hear all of yours. You can tell me in the comment section below and what you guys hope to see from the rest of the Island anime series. I'll see you guys next time, and as always, stay down there, baby.